Hello everyone, Tom the Tank here. Back in my dockyard, I've been doing some adjustments and charged the battery. This is the batteries I use are from household alarm systems. They last quite a long time, and yeah, and then they're not cheap, but they're good value. Okay, so this is obviously my Corvette, which I featured before, but I don't think I've shown the internals. So this is operated with a 2.4 gigahertz transmitter. This is a 6-channel. If you just bear with me. Yeah, this is a 6-channel, and this is not an expensive one. This is a Tamco. I've used them before. One I dropped, but yeah, this is not an expensive one. It's 6-channel, but I'm not using all the available channels. So let me switch it on. Okay, so that switches that on. Then we have the receiver switch. So as you can see, flashing lights, etc. So what I'll do now, again, please bear with me, I'm trying to do this with one hand. If you can see that the gun rotates, that's operated by a servo underneath. Then we have, the rudder. There we go. So port, starboard. Then we have the motor. Okay, so that's ahead. This is actually powered, believe it or not, with a Mahano locomotive motor, and I made a reduction gearbox from bits and pieces because it was literally like a speedboat. So we also have reverse. There we go. So like I say, before I installed the gearbox, this was like a speedboat. It was crazy. Now then, here we have, let's hope you can see that. We have a Morse lamp. Pardon me. We have a working radar. A working radar. Port and starboard lights. There's internal lighting as well. There we are. You can see this strip lighting. This was the lighting was a kit. I'll try and show you up in. Now, if you look at that stern lamp, to try and feed the cables through all these small things was an absolute nightmare. So I've tried to hide the cables as much as possible. There's a mast light there, and again, I don't know if you can see that very well. So I'll switch that off. Okay, so there you can see I put a micro switch in, which is operated by a servo, which puts the lights off and on. So like I say, it's sending more signals. And we have a flashing mast light as well. There we go. There we go. Okay, so switch that off. Switch that off and switch that off. Okay. Now that's 2.4 gigahertz is the new radio frequency. Anything else, I believe, I think that's used for aircraft, it's used for model boats, it's used for many things. However, for my submarine, I have to use this. Let me see if I can give you a better shot. This is a Futaba 40 megahertz, because the 2.4 does not like water. and if the antenna goes underwater, and particularly because it's a submarine, you lose radio contact and it goes haywire. So I managed to buy this 40 megahertz, and this works underwater. I actually bought an extra panel, as you can see there, numbered 1 to 6. Oh, it's 8. Yeah, sorry, it's an 8 channel adapter. So this one is activated with a magnet, the actual receiver. A few more fingers and thumbs today. Right, so that's the story of how the submarine will work. There's a guy called, or RC Sub Guy in America, also known as Nautilus Drydocks. He's using 2.4 gigahertz on his submarines, and I have no idea how he's doing it. Bit of a mystery for me, that one. Right, so as you can see, I made a start installing my new speed controllers. It's a bit rough and ready, but again, the battery was a bit low, so that's on charge now, and that's through my scooter charger, Yamaha scooter charger. And again, this one has quite a large, you can't see it very well in there, it has quite a large, or you can just see the blue, household alarm system battery. I found that they're probably the best to use in these model boats, for me anyway. So there we are. There's the 2 new speed controllers. I've given them you can program them. It's basically just operating the forward controls, reverse controls for the motors, because they only control the motors. So it's a very simple setup. And then just when I was going to try it, the battery went a bit flat. So the next part will be hopefully it running. Okay, so we're back at in the dry docks this time. I've put the electronics in temporarily because I'm still trying to arrange some of the connections and routing the antenna, for example. So basically this is the model of the U505. This is an incredible story. The Americans captured this off the west coast of Africa in the Second World War, and the Germans had actually opened a seacock and were flooding it to scuttle it. But in all fairness, the American sailors, they're brave guys. They got on board, they found where it was flooding, and they put the cap, for want of a better word, they put it back on. It's a long story, but it's an incredible story. It's actually in a museum in Chicago. I've always wanted to go and see it, but I don't know if I ever will get there. So this is my scratch-built U505. And there on the bow is 1XC40. That's the type. It was a 9C40. Okay, the most common type in the Second World War would have been a Type 7C. This is a Type 9C40. This was one of the largest submarines they built. So anyway, going back to my project, I've switched it on. It switches on with a magnet. Okay, magnetic switch there. So what I'll do, I'll show you. I've switched on the port side motor. Let's see if you can see it. There we go. There's the port side motor turning. And now we'll run the starboard motor. So the new speed controllers are working very well. Right, it's not good actually to run them when out of water, because obviously the shafts are lubricated with water. So here we have, I don't know if I can focus in very well. There's the rudder linkages. So so you can see the rudders operating there. Now then, there's rubber bellows from the the seal tank, for want of a better word. So there you can see, where are we? There's the servo operating the rudders. Then what we have, yes, right, so I have to try and recap now. This submarine is actually, I made it so it's almost prototypical of how it would operate. These tanks, trim tanks, ballast tanks, have a hole in the bottom, and as you can see there's a valve. Now I'll try and operate the valve. There we are. So I'm opening, again it's done via the servo, and by opening that valve you release air in the tank, water floods the tank and adds extra weight, and then the submarine submerges. So that's fore and aft. There we go, there's the forward tank, and I've put one-way valves in so it can't get back. So once it's submerged, these valves are obviously closed, okay, and then I have two compressors. There we go. What they are actually, they're water or air pumps. There's two of them. So one for the rear tank and one for the forward tank. So basically this means I can blow the water out and the submarine should surface again. Let's switch it off. And I can also vary the speed of the compressor. So for rapid surfacing, that's maximum speed, and then we can slow them down. There we are. It's still pumping. Right, so that's the internals of my submarine. There's the conning tower down on the floor and the deck. Right, so again, this one operates on 40 megahertz. Anything less, particularly 2.4, it will not work, or I can't get it to work. This was actually quite difficult to get. Although it's Ripmax Futaba, to try and get hold of a 40 megahertz transmitter and receiver system is very, very hard to get. So I even had to mix this. It's a Robbie, okay, receiver. And because I added an extra 8 channels, you need an extra receiver because the standard receiver only has 5 or 6 functions. So my plan is at a later stage is to have the hydroplanes working as well. So there we are, just behind the propeller there's the rear hydroplane. There is a linkage inside. I started to do that, but again it's not easy to access. So there's the front hydroplanes. Now again, as you can see, hopefully, there's rubber bellows. It's a special rubber, and basically this compartment has to be kept totally dry. So there's the lid from it with rubber seals. Yeah, so hopefully now I've fitted the new speed controllers and programmed them. It's a very simple thing, it's nothing complicated. So hopefully then it'll be ready for some trials at a later stage. Okay, right, so thank you for watching. Bye now.